Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. Today, I'm heading back to the Fantasia Film Festival to discuss yet another film that premiered recently, and this one is called All the Moons. All the Moons focuses on a young girl in the latter half of the 19th century during the last Carlist War, where due to an attack by soldiers, she is badly injured and taken in by a kind woman who heals her injuries, but there's a catch. Even though she is healed, she's not allowed to go out in the sun as the light is dangerous. Instead, she must travel by night and live a very different life than she ever thought possible. A few days ago, I reviewed Hellbender, which also came out of Fantasia, and it was this coming-of-age film unlike anything we'd ever really seen before, which essentially was a young girl discovering that she was a witch, and what that meant for how she lived her life. Well, essentially, All the Moons is doing something pretty similar. Instead of witches, now we're talking about vampires. It's mostly marketed as a different take on the vampire subgenre, and to a degree, I can certainly see that, given how the perspective of the film is on this young girl. And you know, kids in vampire films, they exist, but it's such a touchy subject because you're subjecting a child to something that they don't fully understand forever, for the rest of their lives. That's especially true for this girl who isn't fully told of what she'll transform into if she accepts this healing. Instead, she's told she must really truly want to be healed. Also, there's an aspect to the vampire legend that is definitely different in this film, but it's not really focused on here, unfortunately, because I thought it was pretty cool and different and everything, and it was just glossed over for the most part. The first act of the film I really liked. It did a fantastic job introducing the story and getting you acquainted with the idea that in the late 19th century, there were these vampire-like people that were being hunted down in this ancient war, and it lays the groundwork for what that means. And at the end of the first act, this little girl is separated from those that turned her, and the real adventure part of the story begins. All of that works very, very well. That being said, I didn't care so much about the second act, which I think kind of slowed down to a crawl as this girl kind of ventures out on her own, trying to figure out who she is, and what her limitations are as a vampire child. Some things that happen during this act are cool, but a majority of it felt a little bit too slow for my liking. The third and final act of the film was a little bit better than the second, as things had to boil up to a point, but honestly, it's not that much better than the second act. And as far as the narrative resolution goes, I thought it was slightly anticlimactic. Now, look, the acting in the film is fantastic, and visually the movie looks superb. The production design and cinematography specifically really stand out as just high-quality stuff. And the girl who plays Amaya does a terrific job throughout the film. Honestly, she looks the part and she plays it perfectly. And as a vampire tale, it definitely is different than what you would normally find in the subgenre, but in terms of entertainment, it's an incredibly slow-moving coming-of-age film. And when it comes down to vampire stories on their own, it also doesn't have that much to offer more here. There's one thing that it does specifically that's different than what you would normally find with vampires, but again, it's not focused on that much. And everything else is basically kind of ignored. So in general, this is a film that I feel like film fanatics will at least appreciate in terms of how much work went into the filmmaking process, because technically it does look great. But if you're somebody that prefers just to be entertained, that's more of a toss-up. From an unbiased technical vantage point, the visuals and cinematography stand out, as does the acting. But my problem with the film mostly comes down to the pacing and the narrative, since a lot of what happens in this movie overall just doesn't seem to matter that much to me, and thus feels like it kind of goes on, which is problematic. This score is 68%. As for my bias score, just how I felt about it overall, you know, I don't know, I really didn't care that much about it. I mean, I did appreciate how good it looked at times, but I was indeed bored throughout the movie. This score is 66%. Meaning that when we combine the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 67%. 67 out of 100 possible stars, or a C+ letter grade. Guys, have you seen All the Moons? If you have, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. And if you haven't yet, tell me, are you planning to watch it soon? And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come up with my next review. And until then, peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1.